Hello, my fellow gnomes, and welcome back to another episode of Doors. Now, in the last episode, we worked on creating some furniture for ourselves, which was all very nice and pretty, but it doesn't really affect the gameplay, and at the moment, well, we can just walk straight to our doors. So today, we're going to add some locks onto them, and we're going to utilize our furniture to hide keys inside of. So let's hit stop, and we'll go back into editing. First thing you might notice is I've added a chair model as well, just adding a bit of extra furniture into the mix. But here is our door model, completely unchanged. But I have just gone and grabbed a little lock mesh just from the toolbox. You can go and grab one yourself if you do a quick search for lock. But I've got this lock here, and I'm just going to position it on the front of the door, just to sort of act as a visual demonstration for when the door is locked. So we'll just position that roughly where I want it. That's fine. It doesn't have to be anything too precise. And then we make sure the part is called lock, which it is. And then we're going to move this lock part into the door. So we click and drag and move it in. And then we make sure that it's anchored, which it is. All the collisions and such are turned off, which is good. And then we're going to make the transparency, we're going to set that to 1. So it's invisible to start with, but then when we need it, we can make it visible later on. So with that done, let's now head into our door module script. So server script service, server room, and into door. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a new parameter for the function called locked. Okay, so room model number and locked. And if it is locked, then we're going to want to make that part visible. So we can do that all on one line. Door model dot lock dot transparency. I want that to be equal to 0 or 1. So if that locked parameter is set to true, so it'll be locked and then it'll be 0, so it'll be fully visible, or 1, it'll be invisible. Again, it depends on the condition or the value of that locked value. And seeing as we're creating nice short lines to our code, we should probably go ahead and optimize this. I've been taking some flack for the fact that I've broken this into a convoluted if statement here, just to format the number. And it's been pointed out to me there's actually a handy way of doing this. So we can go ahead and delete these lines. And instead, we can set the text equal to string.format. And then what we can do is we have 2 values. First is the way we want to format it. So we type percentage 03D. Now the D stands for decimal. The percentage indicates we're going to substitute in a value, and the value we're going to put in is that number variable. And then 03 means you want a minimum of 3 decimal decimal values. So we're going to have 001 or 010 or 100. And once we've done that, we then want to decide on the opening, because at the moment it's just opening whenever anybody touches that sensor part. So we're going to need to change this a little bit. So if it's not locked, then we'll just do a straightforward opening as before. But else if it's locked, therefore, and the humanoid dot parent, and we're going to find first child and see if they're holding a key. Because if the player's holding a tool, they've got it equipped, then it will be inside of the character, and the character is the parent of the humanoid. So if that's the case, then we'll set the door model dot lock, and we'll just go ahead and destroy it. And then humanoid dot parent dot key, we'll destroy that as well. And then we can go ahead and open it. So we can just copy that line there. And we're going to need a key now in order to test this, aren't we? So I've actually already got one I can just grab. I'll just paste that in here. Here we go. Here is our key. And just for the sake of testing, we'll pop this straight into the starter pack. And so inside of our room module script, when we're creating the new door, we can actually have that third parameter, the lock parameter, and we'll set that equal to true. And so if I now play the game, we'll find there's an ordinary door to start with. But then the door to the second room, it should be locked. And if we try and walk into it, it's not going to open for us. But if we get out our special key and it's equipped, and so it's now inside of our character, I can show that to you real quickly. Look, inside GnomeCode, there is now an item called key. And if I was then to touch the door, it will unlock for us. Perfect. So that's our key system working. Now we just need to go about hiding that key. Now the way we're going to do this, if you remember, inside of our chest of drawers, inside the drawers, we created two attachment points. We have the toggle attachment and a location attachment, which is where we're going to put the keys. So with that in mind, we need to go and find all of the location attachment points inside of an entire room now. So we need to search the furniture and then each furniture for its points. So we'll go into our furniture module script and inside the furniture.new script. And once we've checked that we do have a furniture model, well, then we're going to create a table, local item locations, which is initially going to be an empty table. Well, then every time, for every drawer we find, we're going to insert into that table. So table.insert the location we've just found. So into the item locations folder, we're going to put the drawer.location attachment. And then once we've got all of our item locations, once we've filled it all up, we're then going to return it at the end of the function. And so now that we're sending some information back, let's make sure we're capturing it inside of our furnish room function when we call furniture.new. So now we can say local locations equals what is returned via this function. And so now we want a huge table to contain all the locations of all the furniture. So at the very top, we'll create a new table called local room item locations. So every location in the entire room, and then we want to add in the locations of each furniture. So once we've got locations, we can check if we have locations, then, and we'll say table.insert into the big room item locations table, and we'll add in but actually, seeing as we've got potentially more than one, we could have several, we're going to need to loop through the table we've been sent back. So we'll do for index value in iPairs locations do, and then we'll add each one individually into the super table. So then it'll be value that we add in. And then once we've done all of this, we're just going to check now if that super table, as we're calling it, if it actually has anything in it. So if hashtag room item locations is greater than 0, then we will return that table. And then that's going to be returned back into the room module script. So when we call furniture.furnishRoom, we now have some locations. So let's capture that. Local locations equals furniture.furnishRoom. And to test this, we can go and add in that key that we've just been playing about with. So if we have locations, then what we're going to do is first of all, we need to get a random one. So let's get a random number from the table. Local random equals room.random. Next integer. We want a random number between 1 and the total amount of locations there are. And then we're going to get a random location using that number. So the random location, we go to the locations table and choose that using that random number that we just created. And then we're going to place something in that location. So just while we're testing, let's just add in a brand new part actually. So local p equals instance.new part p.size vector3.new 111 and p.position will then equal the random location, which is the attachment. And so we can use its world position property. And then we'll set the p.parent equal to workspace. So if we just go ahead and click run now, we don't need to play with our character, just run. What we should find is we should have a random key appearing in one of these drawers. So if we have a look around, you can see these drawers are empty. And so is this one. And so is this one. And so is this one. But eventually we should find in one of these drawers, there we go. In this drawer at the top, we have a random part. And if you look in the workspace, we've got a bunch of random parts that have now been created for each room. So if I press F, select a random one, press F, I'm going to get teleported to another room. And there's a part in here, here, and so on. So we can see we're generating a random part in a random location in each room now. So let's go ahead and actually apply this so we can actually hide keys instead. So in order to use keys, we're going to need a new module script, I think would be best, really. So we'll go in and we'll add a new module script and we'll call it item. And so this will then be item and we will return the item. And then inside of the workspace, we're going to create an items folder. So we've got a furniture folder, we've got a rooms folder, and we'll create one more folder that we'll call items. We might put other things in here eventually, but for now, it's just going to contain this key object, right? The single key is going to be the only thing inside of that folder. We'll just pop that down there for now. So back into our module script, let's create our function of item.new. And the two arguments for that, they're going to be the location we want to put it in, which is going to be the attachment, and then the item name. So first off, let's try and find out if the item exists. So local item object equals workspace.items, that folder we just created, find first child, and we'll try and find the item name. And so if we have then got an item object, then we can start to insert it in. So for the key, seeing as it's a tool, I don't want to actually put the tool in itself. I just want to put the handle part. So most tools will have a handle item, and that's actually the part. Whereas the tool, if I was to touch it with my character, I would automatically pick it up. And I don't want all the sort of automatic behavior of tools. I want to be able to customize it a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a copy of just that handle part instead. So local item handle equals item object dot handle clone. And then I can set the item handle dot position to be equal to the world position of that location attachment. And then I'm going to want to weld it to the drawer. So we'll create a weld instance.new weld constraint. And then a weld has a part 0 and a part 1. And this is because a weld is essentially like glue. And so the part 0 is the the first thing we want to stick, and that is the item handle. And then we say world.part1, and this is what we want to stick it to. And in this case, you want to stick it to the drawer. And we can get the drawer by going to the parent of the location. So location.parent, because if we remember, when we created those objects, if we look in the drawer and we select it, inside of it, we have location. And so its parent is going to be this drawer object. Making sense so far? And so once we've done that, we'll make sure we add the item handle into the world, and its parent can be the location as well. And I said I didn't want the default behavior of tools. I didn't want you to be able to just touch it and pick it up. Instead, I want to use a pickup prompt. So local prompt equals instance.new proximity prompt. And we're going to set the prompt.action text just to be a blank string again. We'll set the activation distance to be 5 again. And then finally, its parent is going to be equal to the location. And when this is triggered, so prompt.triggered, we'll connect it into a function. And then we get the player who triggered it automatically, which is going to be very helpful for us. And once we do that, we're going to run a new function now. And we're going to call this function, we'll put it up here, item.interact. And we're going to want the player. We're going to want the prompt itself. We're going to want that handle part. We can call that template, I suppose. And then the item name. So it's quite a lot of parameters, but I think it'll be helpful to have all of these in the function. So then let's call this function when it's triggered. So item.interact, and we send the player, the prompt, the template, which remember is the item handle, and the item name. So then on interact, first of all, let's just check if they still have a player.character. There's no weirdness going on. So if player.character, and then we're going to check what the item name is. So if the item name is key, that's what I've called my item. It's key, in uppercase K. Because we could have different items. We could have coins or something. But for now, we'll just focus on the key. If it's a key, then let's create the tool and pop it into that player's backpack. So that will equal the workspace.items.key, and we'll create a copy of it. And then the tool.parent is simply equal to the player.backpack. And once this has happened, we want to disable the prompt. We can put this if outside of this if block, because like I said, we might have some different items which we'd want different behavior for, but we're always going to want to then disable that proximity prompt. So set that to false, and then we'll destroy that template part because we don't want to have that handle laying about in the drawer anymore. So that's quite a lot of scripting. Now we just need to make sure we create the item inside of our room function. So go back to room, and instead of creating this brand new part, we're going to use our item module instead. So let's make sure we require it at the top. Local item equals require script.item. And then instead of doing this, we can then simply say item.new, and we give it the random location, and we give it a name, which is going to be key. Okay, let's play. Whoa, slow down there, GnomeCode. I just realized a slight mistake on my part. I forgot to set the parent of the world. So make sure we say world.parent, and we set that equal to the item handle. So once we've got our parent to the world, so if we don't add a parent to something, then it doesn't actually get added into the world. So we created it, but it just kind of remains in this sort of void of nothingness. So once we've done that, now we can play and we can test it out for ourselves. So the door is locked and we're going to have to search through some of these drawers to see if we can find the key. Of course, it's going to be the last one we search for, isn't it? Not that one, not that one. There we go. Okay, and so now we can see we have a proximity prompt that appears when we hover over the mouse. And if we click it or tap E, then it appears into our inventory, look, into our backpack. And then that prompt inside the drawer disappears. We can equip the key and we can go up to the door. And the key disappears from our backpack and the door opens. I can keep progressing through and then we'd have to find another key, look. And it starts to get all very tedious if you're having to search for a key every single time. So we probably don't want to have a key spawning every time. Maybe just some of the time. So if we only want it to happen some of the time, that's pretty easy. We just head into our room script. And once we've checked if there's locations, then we can just do a sort of a random statement. We can say if room.random next integer between, let's say, 1 and 3. If it equals 3, so a 1 in 3 chance, essentially, of having a key. So if there is, then we'll create a new item. And so we don't want then this door.new to always be true. Instead, we're going to need another variable for that. So we'll create a variable, local requires key, set that to false initially, and we'll send that value to the door.new function. But then if this is true, if we have created a key, then we can say requires key equals true. And so now if we play, we should hopefully only be getting the locks some of the time. Let's boost up our run speed just while we're testing this, make it a bit quicker. So we can see the first room is open. We can cruise through that. And of course, the upstairs isn't locked either. And neither is this one. We'll keep cruising through and then look. So we've got a lock now to get into door number 5. And we have to open a bunch of drawers. And maybe eventually we'll find it. Let's keep looking. Where is it? Where has it gone? It's always the last one. There we go. Got the key. And open up and then we'd have to search for another one. And I'm not getting very lucky here, am I? There we go. And then we get through the next ones and so on. So we've got a 1 in 3 chance. It adds a bit more of randomization. You could obviously change those numbers. One more thing we might want to do is add in some sounds though. So that'll be easy enough to do. Maybe we'd like a sound for when you pick up the keys. So actually inside of my key, I've already got this little key jingle sound. If you can listen to it. And I can just play that from my item module script. So if we go to the room.interact function, I can simply say tool.handle.keyJingle, and I can tell it to play. And I might also want to have a sound for when you unlock the door. So if we go to the door, and you'll see inside the door, I currently have this sound called open. Well, I could add in another sound. I'll just paste this in. And this one is called unlock. It sounds like this. And if I want that to play, I can go into my door module script. And after we've destroyed the locks and the key that the player's holding, we could say door model dot door dot unlock and tell that to play. And maybe I want a short delay between the unlock sound and it actually opening. Don't have to add this, but I'm going to add the little maybe half-second wait or a 0.4 second wait. And so if we play now, we can hear those sounds hopefully for ourselves. Cruising through the level. That's how we like it. Okay, fit a locked door. And where's the key gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? always the last one, isn't it? There we go. So we got the key and there we go. We got a little unlock sound. Although it does occur to me that we won't actually hear the sound because if we just equip it, it's going to be playing inside of our backpack. So if we might want to have the player automatically equip the key as soon as they pick it up. So if we want to do that inside of our item module script, instead of putting it to player.backpack, we can put it into player.character. And so now when we go and we tap E on the key, we'll be equipped, automatically go straight into our hand, and then we'll hear the sound. And there we go. So I think that brings us to the end of this episode. We've got some locks, we've got some keys, and we've got lots of amazing gameplay of opening and closing drawers. What more could you possibly ask for as a player? So there we go. I'll see you in the next episode, and where we'll be hopefully adding a bit more interesting things into our game. Maybe we'll even start to look at some monsters. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye!